Well, that was a long Monaco Grand Prix, wasn't it? And it was a bit anticlimactic, looking forward so much to the start. And actually, we had a split strategy in terms of tyres. And quite surprisingly here, actually, Aston Martin went for the long game, especially knowing how good the Red Bull is on their tyres. You thought they'd go, get in front and manage the race as they come from there. But actually, it was Max Verstappen who started on the mediums, Fernando, Alonso on the hards. We then got a mix of that all the way through with medium and hards. Hamilton on the hards, mediums. Same with Ocon. The two Ferraris started on the hards. But obviously he lost out on that small advantage down to that first corner with Fernando Alonso, so couldn't actually make any positions. He actually got a decent start, but actually with them extra softer tyres, he might have been able to be right up there alongside Verstappen, but it wasn't to be. And then actually it was a brilliant stint from Verstappen again on the medium tyres. He made them last all the way up until about lap 45 or something like that. And same with Alonso on the hards, just couldn't get close enough, and it was about a 10-second lead at that point. Now behind them at the start, it was a brilliant start for Nico Hülkenberg. He made up 4 places at the start, yes 4, but then went quite downhill afterwards, didn't he? Had a bit of an incident at the back with Perez and Sargent. He got a 5-second penalty for that, and it was just a bit of a chaos start from there. And then, yeah, as I say, it was a steady race right up until lap 45, but then we got some rain, and it was, well, that's what kind of Verstappen and Alonso were waiting for. And then I'm not sure what the Aston Martin team were doing. It like they had a bit of a brain fade. Alonso pitted and went on to medium tyres. Yes, you heard that right. Rain was coming down. I'm not sure why they went onto the medium tyres there. Maybe they think the rain wasn't going to come in as hard, but I mean, Verstappen was out, so they pitted the lap early. But had they made that choice and gone onto the inters, there was a chance we'd seen something, but it's, you know, what could have been. Verstappen then pitted the next lap on inters, and I think that's what that time, you know, the extra time in the lead gets you. It gives you that thinking time. They don't have to rush and panic. And yeah, he made the right call, went on to the inters, and then it looked like he was away, wasn't he? It was about 20 seconds he had on Alonso because of the extra pit stop for Alonso. And it was a comfortable win from there, about 25 seconds in the end. But brilliant race from Verstappen, again on their medium tyres, just going a distance that nobody else could hack it. I mean, the Williams had run out of soft medium tyres by lap 2021 when they were pitting. Sargent going backwards, Albon sadly going backwards as well. But what a brilliant race from Ocon. P3 at the Monaco Grand Prix. I'm sure that'll be a race he'll remember for a very, very long time. He made the right calls yesterday, brilliant lap, and then he was there and, you know, just kept the heads Alpine, and brilliant strategy calls, excellent. Kept the 2 Mercedes behind him. But yeah, let's go through the teams. And for Red Bull first, Max Verstappen, you got to give him a 10 out of 10 for this race. Brilliant on pole yesterday. Even for the race today, he just made it count. Again, that strategy on the medium tyres to go as far as others did on the hards just shows how good that Red Bull is on them tyres. He got into the inters, and I think this is where you can see how good they are, light they are on the tyres. It did take them a few laps to get them tyres fired up. Alonso was making about 2 or 3 seconds a lap on Verstappen at that stage, got the gap down to about 15 seconds or so. But then as the tyres warmed up, he got in his rhythm again and off he went, won by about 27 seconds. Brilliant jump for Max Verstappen. Sergio Perez, on the other hand, started 20th, finished 16th. Overall, he made about 2 positions considering we had 2 DNFs. He had a scruffy race, didn't he? He pitted on lap 2, went straight onto the hards, and that was his strategy. He started on the mediums actually, and I think because of the incident where he was, he just went out, pitted early, and that was it. And he had a scruffy race. He was hitting the wall. He had 5 pit stops in the end, did Sergio Perez. I really like the Street King was something else. I don't know what. So we had a clone of Sergio Perez there at the weekend today. He was shocking. For a place he's won and done really well at in that Red Bull where it's absolutely firing, he'll be shocked. He had a big moment as well on the inters at the swimming pool section. He did well to collect that one up and live to fight another day. The Ferraris, Charles Leclerc started 6th, finished in 6th. started on the hard, went on to the mediums and then the inters. In the rain actually, Russell got a 5-second penalty. Leclerc, you think he'd do everything he can to try and keep on to the back of that Mercedes, but his pace in the rain was nowhere. They really struggled with that. And a team that do work hard on their tyres, you know, you thought they'd get them into the operating window quite quickly, but it wasn't to be. Poor strategy call, they were just slow. Oh, should we, shouldn't we? And that was summed up with Sainz as well. He started 5th, finished in 8th. He had a disastrous Monaco Grand Prix as Carlos Sainz. He was angry at the pit call as well because he was behind Ocon, kept his gap, and then with the tyre differentials as well, him on the hard and Ocon on the medium, he wanted to run long, but they called him in before for some undercut. I mean, it's gone away from the whole strategy of what you planned out again. I mean, Ferrari's strategy calls are back again this year. They've not really gone away, have they? I'm not sure what they need to do to get them right. Yeah, and then he was behind Ocon, and then he lost out in the rain. Poor weekend for him. Lost out to Russell in the pits when the rain came down. The Mercedes, Lewis Hamilton started in 6th, finished in 4th place. He'll be happy with that because it's a place where you can't really overtake. He's made up 2 places. He was on it in the wet. That car really come to life. They were about 2nd behind Ocon, just couldn't get close enough. One point, got about 7 tenths behind him, but again, just not close enough to make a move. But some decent points for him. Russell started in 5th, finished in 5th. He'll be disappointed actually because, oh no, he started in 8th, finished in 5th, sorry, did Russell. But he'll be disappointed because he was looking like he was about 3rd place when the rain started to come down, and he'd gone into inters. I mean, it looked like he could have nicked a podium there potentially because he just made it work. He went on the hard, he went long, exactly what you'd probably want this strategy to work out for him, but it just wasn't to be. And then he went off and ran into the at Mirabel, went straight on into the runoff area there, and on the way out caught Perez, and that was a big incident there, and luckily he got away with not too much car damage, but got a 5-second time penalty for the unsafe return onto the track, did George Russell. But again, it didn't really cost him. He made enough of a gap to Charles Leclerc to keep him behind. The Aston Martins next. Alonso started 2nd, finished 2nd. For a race that he had penned down to win, it was a bit mysterious what they went for, the strategy call. They went for the hards, which was obviously different to the Red Bull, and tried to play the wrong game. Even though they've been good in race conditions, have Aston Martin, so you can see maybe where their thinking was, but not as good as the Red Bull. You know, it had to be get in front and control the race at the beginning. And then it was the disastrous call of going in and going onto the dries when the rain was falling. Even Alonso was questioning that decision there, but they carried on, and then he's come out and finished 2nd. A decent result, he'll be happy with that, but he's off to his home Grand Prix in Spain next weekend, and he'll be hoping for maybe a potential first win there, but let's see. Who knows, that Red Bull does seem unstoppable though. Lance Stroll started 14th. He just had a shocker. He was scruffy, hitting everything. He actually was down 4 places at the start, down to P18 at the beginning, and then it was in a battle at the back with the Haas team, and he was just banging and clanging, and then he pitted on the inters for lap 53, but then went out in the end. He broke his front wing, run over it, and then pits. I don't know if there's some sort of suspension damage for him there, but yeah, McLaren's. Some good points for them. Lando, Norris finished in P9, started P10. Piastri finished in P10, started P11. A brilliant performance by Piastri actually. A tough circuit in Monaco, he's moved up, he's kept it on the track and got some points. Same with Lando Norris. It's probably what the best they could have hoped for, but when the rain comes, you really need to make it count. Look at Ocon, what he's done in a car and got P3. These are the, you know, the conditions and where these smaller teams where you're not doing so well really need to maximise these scenarios. But good points overall for the McLaren team and a solid race for them. Alpine, Pierre Gasly started in P7, finished in 7th in the end. We got a black and white flag for cutting the track limits. Sainz was on him at the end, wasn't he? Constantly calling him out for that, but luckily he didn't get a time penalty and keeps that 7th place. But Ocon was the star in that Alpine car. Brilliant performance yesterday in qualifying and a solid race today. Kept that Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton behind. It's a bit easier to do, but it was tough, difficult conditions in the wets. You know, we'd seen even Verstappen up front and clipping the walls and stuff like that, even so far out front. So it was treacherous and difficult out there. But a brilliant result. Probably the star of the weekend for me, driver of the day, has got to go to Ocon with that performance. The Haas team, K-Mag and Hülkenberg. Well, K-Mag started in 17th. He's retired in the end. He had a nice move on Sargent down into turn 1 and lap 14, but then got into P14, but then struggled, went on to the Inters. Unsure why he retired in the end, but yeah, not a great weekend for the Haas team. Hülkenberg started in P18, made up 4 places at the start, down to P14, and it looked like, you know, he'd be up into decent place, but had to put on lap 2 due to some damage. He got a 5-second penalty for that stand there move on Sargent, didn't he? He just swooped in and got a penalty for that. I can kind of see why he did it, but this is Monaco. You've got to make them sort of that crazy moves, and he made it count. He made it round the corner. Did Hülkenberg, but he got the penalty for that, and then there we go. Started 17th, started 18th, finished 17th. Nil point for Haas team. Next we've got the AlphaTauri team. It was Nick De Vries who started in P12. He finished in 12th in the end. He was about 20 seconds off the back of Bottas actually, so they just struggled. Well, Nick De Vries did, but he made it round. Finished the Monaco Grand Prix instead of crashing out in the wall, so decent job for him. Yuki Tsunoda started in 9th, and actually he had a really shocking race in the end. Really struggled on the brakes when the rain came down. He was in some good points and then sadly got passed by both the 2 McLarens and then just went disastrously backwards. He seemed to have some problems with his braking, lost all confidence I think, and that was it. Really horrible race ending for him. What looked really promising for Yuki Tsunoda. Alfa Romeo next, and it was Bottas. Started in 15th, finished 11th, and Bottas back with some decent racing. Started on the hards, went all the way through, made up 3 places in the rain, got up to P12. Just wasn't to be for some points for him, unfortunately. Zhou Guanyu started in 19th, finished in 13th. Again, lost a place to Hülkenberg into turn 1. Pitted early and then lap 20, and then made up about 5 places when the rain came down, up to P14. So a solid result from him in the end, but overall just outside the points, and I think just roughly where that Alfa Romeo is. I'll be happy that they were battling in the midfield again rather than out at the back, so some decent upturn for them. The Williams team, Alex Albon started 13th, finished in 14th. He struggled on them tyres early on. He started on the mediums and they just struggled with the graining. By lap 20 they were just falling back like massively, especially considering, you know, the Red Bulls got double the amount of laps out of it that tyre than the Williams team, so they were really hard on their tyres, especially compared to everyone else, which was a bit odd. Logan Sargent started 16th, finished 18th in the end. He was up to P14 for a bit, got passed by Stroll and Perez, and he had a disastrous lap 19. He got passed by Magnussen, Stroll, Perez at La Rascasse in one corner. 3 places in one wrap around Monaco, that's not what you want to be doing, especially difficult to overtake. And then lap 21 he got passed by Mags as well, and it was just a decent race for him, I suppose. A decent result. He got to the finish line, but he just went backwards after a decent qualifying result in P16 start. He'll be disappointed. But next we go to Spain, a traditional circuit where we'll get the teams test there a lot, so we'll see how a lot of them come together there. Only a week to go, thank God for that, so they'll be right into the racing next weekend. But yeah, it was actually a decent Monaco Grand Prix in the end, wasn't it? Normally we get a bit of a bore fest. It was looking that way until that rain came down, changed the whole complex of it. Yes, Verstappen still won, and we're still seeing a Red Bull up front, but that's just how brilliant they are at the moment. And actually I think it was in the hands of Verstappen that car is absolutely mega. Look, Perez had a shocker, didn't he, in the same car. Seemed to make 2 steps forward and about 10 steps back did Perez in that car. And a brilliant performance from Ocon, let's not forget about that. Yes, thanks for watching the review of the Monaco Grand Prix. We'll see you next time out for Spain. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment, and always I'll see you in the next video.